Hi classmates, this is John Taylor, and I want to talk to you a little bit about evolution, a conversation about the existence of God. Now this may seem like a very strange title for a statistical speech, but I am going to give you some statistics, but I wanted to give you a basic background of where I'm coming from on this topic of evolution and the existence of God. So just bear with me a little bit. In the interest of time, I'm going to go through this pretty quick. I have provided some slides for you where you can follow along. I wouldn't promise you that I'm going to be exactly in the same order, but the information is there. Is there evidence of a supernatural creator? Well, yes. The Word of God is evidence that there is a supernatural creator. The Bible says in Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God. So if we just stop right there, we have written documentation that there is a creator who created all this wonderful earth. What are the evidences? Well, one, the universe had a beginning. It says in the beginning, so in the beginning is the start of something, God. And then there's the fine-tuning of natural law, and I'm going to get into natural law and what that is a little bit later on. The origin of life, the origin of phila, the origin of humans, and worldviews and morality. These are all part of the discussion that I'm just going to touch on briefly before I get into the more statistical areas of what scientists actually believe. Excuse me, Alvin Plantinga of Notre Dame, he's a professor there, made these two statements. Evolution covers a wide variety of theses. One of those is the ancient thesis claiming that the Earth is 4 billion years old. Now, scientists have figured out that the Earth is not really 4 billion years old. They've been using faulty data and faulty ways of attributing that data or gathering that data. And so we know that the Earth is really between 6 and 10 million years old, not the 4 billion that they have been teaching in the schools for several decades. Secondly, common ancestry theses. This is where you can pick two of any kind of species, and if you go back far enough, you'll be able to find some kind of commonality of those species, which would then make you related. So for instance, I could go in my backyard and find some poison oak, and if I go far enough back, I could find something in the DNA of poison oak and myself that's common, and that would make me a cousin. So I can honestly tell you, I don't believe that I'm a cousin of any poison oak. I don't even like poison oak. It's starting to make me itch just thinking about it. So I would strongly tell you that I'm adamantly and vehemently opposed to that theory. One of the greatest professors that I've listened to as far as speaking and being an authority on evolution and the existence of God is John Lennox. He was at a debate in Oxford University. He's actually from Cambridge, and he made this statement. Alfred North White and many other scientists of his day, excuse me, I'm sorry, I've been a little sick, so commented that men became scientists because they expected law in nature, and they expected law in nature because they believed in a law giver. In other words, there was a source that did the framework for science. Natural laws, there are obvious laws in nature that exist for our benefit, advantage, and our protection. We can observe these laws in action. Human conscious, regardless of cultural norms, humans all over the world have an innate sense of good and evil that demonstrates God's design in us. So in essence, when He breathed in our nostrils, He breathed those attributes of Himself into us. Being in the image of God is far more expansive than what we want to narrowly think of the image of God as a physical look. It's really not about the physical look, it's about the attributes that are inside our bodies. Also, we have a desire for justice. Human beings always are looking for justice, and regardless of what their political views are or what their origins of beginning are, as far as whether they're Hispanic or German or Italian or their ethnicity, they're always looking for justice, and they want to make sure that justice is served whenever possible. This is just a natural phenomenon with human beings. Now, Dr. Jason Lisle, in his article, God and Natural Law, states, the universe obeys certain rules, laws to which all things must adhere. These laws are precise, and many of them are mathematical in nature. And if anybody knows me, I do not like mathematics, and so I'm not going to give you a lot of math in this video. Moving along to what I really want to get to is natural laws are hierarchical in nature, and secondary laws are based on primary laws of nature, which have to be just right in order for our universe to be possible. In other words, every little molecule, every little macro molecule has to be exactly perfect, exactly in the right place in order for our universe, which we live in, this universe, to be even possible. I don't think that we could actually do any of this or attribute any of this to just evolution. And when we're talking about evolution, when you meet people who speak of evolution, as I have over 40 years of ministering in one way or another, I always enjoy those conversations because it really boils down to, do I really believe in God? Because if I can disprove creation, I can disprove the Creator. And this, whenever you're looking at it from that perspective, you can automatically see in their scientific data that there might be a bias. They'll discard things that might not look like there is a basis for evolution and more of a basis for creation. But scientists more and more are finding that creation, the account of creation is found in the book of Genesis, is actually true. Excuse me. I'm going to read this to you real quick. A survey of scientists who are members of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, conducted by the Pew Research Center for the People and the Press in May and June of 2009, find that members of this group are, on the whole, much less religious than the general public. Now, in order to break this down, and this is how they did it. Indeed, the survey shows that scientists are roughly half as likely as the general public to believe in God or a higher power. According to the poll, just over half of scientists, 51%, believe in some form of deity or higher power. Specifically, 33% of scientists say they believe in God, while 18% believe in a universal spirit or higher power. By contrast, 95% of Americans believe in some form of deity or higher power, according to a survey of the general public conducted by the Pew Research Center in July of 2006. Now, I understand that we're in 2019 and there may be some variables and some indicators that would suggest that maybe we're moving away from that one way or another. But for the interest of this particular speech, I'm giving you the latest data that I could find on this subject. So continuing on, specifically, more than 8 in 10 Americans, 83%, say they believe in God, and 12% believe in a universal spirit or higher power. Finally, the poll of scientists find that 4 in 10 scientists, 41%, say they do not believe in God or a higher power, while the poll of the public finds that only 4% of Americans share this view. Now, the reality of it is we're finding more and more that scientists are vindicating those of us who believe in the story of creation. They're finding more and more evidence that the biblical account of creation is actually true, and that the theory of evolution is just that, a theory riddled with holes and cannot be proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. So if you would take that into a courtroom, obviously that would not win a case on the theory of evolution. It is just that, a theory. Scientists, data from the Pew Research Center for the People and the Press survey conducted in May and June of 2009. For complete question wording, see the survey in this link that I'm going to give you on my slide that I've provided for you. The recent survey of scientists tracks fairly closely with earlier polls that gouged scientists' views on religion. That word is really gauged. I'm sorry, I miswrote it and I'm not reading it right. The first of these was conducted in 1914 by Swiss-American psychologist James Liebu. who surveyed about 1,000 scientists in the United States to ask them about their views on God. This is important to me, I think, in trying to explain to people about evolution and also about the existence of God. It's very important to understand that the ratio of scientists for and against, because when we make a claim that scientists are anti-God, we actually don't have the statistical data to support that claim. What we can say is that scientists are as likely or maybe more likely to believe in God or a higher power of their choosing than the average American does. More than 80 years later, after Edward Larson, a historian of science then teaching at the University of Georgia, recreated Luba's survey, asking the same number of scientists the exact same questions. To the surprise of many, Larson's 1996 poll came up with a similar result, finding that 40% of scientists believe in a personal God, while 45% said they did not. Other surveys of scientists have yielded roughly similar results, and I did go and look around for some other scientific studies, and I found that that was true. So it is my conclusion, based on the Pew Research and the other research that I have found, that all of them have pretty much the same statistical data that we're talking about here. Again, I find that the data is really important, because then we can figure out if there are any biases, pro or con, to the existence of God. Scientific research and gathering of data should not have really any biases, but I will say this, and I think I said this to Wendy earlier when I spoke to her on her board that she posted. I believe that any kind of statistical data that's collected, stats, can be skewed and can be biased one way or another, depending on who we're actually gathering the information from. If I wanted to, let's just take the political atmosphere right now. If I wanted to have a political leaning of my data, if I wanted it to seem like that is correct, one way or another, either far left or far right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to saturate my questions to that portion of the population that shares the same view to make my case. Now, is that right or fair? No, it is not. That's not the way you should do it. It should be as unbiased as possible, have the same amount of far left and far right individuals answer the very same question posed to everyone. And so that way we can have more confidence in the information that we're getting. I have watched Pew conduct a lot of surveys over the years, and I find them to be very credible, and their conclusions are true, that basically scientists are pretty much equally split on whether God exists. But I do find that there's a trend, ever so slightly, that scientists are now at least getting to the point where they are believing that there is a creator, because they cannot prove evolution, and evolution just really has a lot of holes in it because it is a theory. I hope that this has helped you understand evolution, and really what the conversation is about the existence of God, and how scientists in this particular topic do have an opinion, but how they formulate their research and the conclusion of the research is based on scientific facts, not their own particular biases. Now, we'll say again, as a caveat, that there are times when people, like anywhere, will try to tilt the scale one way or another. But we have to look at the totality of information from different viewpoints in order to come up with a summarization of the information, and the information from all sources are just about the same. So I hope this was very helpful to you. God bless you. I encourage you this week to go out and witness to somebody, because the fact is that the world needs Jesus, and especially now. Thank you very much, and God bless you.